7th regular city council meeting to order. We're going to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call shows that Mayor Galis is absent. He's ill today. And Mike Kramer notified us at the end of our last meeting that he would be out of town on business today. So I'd entertain a motion to excuse both of those gentlemen.
Question, who did he notify about being ill?
He notified me.
He notified
Today?
me as well.
Yes, he has 101 fever.
I can make that motion
I'll
to
support.
excuse both
Motion
John
to
Glaze
excuse.
as well as Mike Kramer.
Is there any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Approval of the minutes of March 13th, 2017. Comments?
I do have some comments regarding the public comment. I felt that it was very, I didn't capture everything that was said by Mr. Ryan Lair. The comments by Mr. Hogan was very detailed, but in comparison, the comments by Mr. Lair was not very detailed. So the following words were spoken. I would like these added to the agenda, to the minutes, please. The investigator found you had a financial interest. You did not want to lose your job at Pullum Windows, so you voted for the contract knowing you were safeguarding your job. Also, number 2, I'd like to add, as to the council members who voted to protect you, they can be charged with obstruction of justice because you did not allow a criminal investigation to be investigated. Number 3, the 3 members who voted no were Mayor John Galis, Mary Parisian, and Harvey Waddell. I would also like to thank Mike Kramer. Even though he is friends with certain members on council, he agreed that a law enforcement investigation. And the last note I would like to have added is, as for restitution, I feel you should owe the entire bill of the investigation. The taxpayers should not have to pay for your investigation. I would like to have those statements added to the minutes, please.
Anyone else?
Recognition, please.
Yes.
I am looking on page 3. I am looking at the second large paragraph at the very end. I'm on the last line, and it ends with, is a loss and has been operating at a loss for years, period. I'd like to add, I don't want to incur any more long-term debt with the sewer and water department. And if we go on to page 4, first line, it ends with another long-term debt program, period. I am adding what I said, that sewer and water department needs to get rates under control so they are covering their operating expenses, period. Until that department operates at a break even, ... they have to get out of the hole, period. We have a general fund that has lost $2.4 million in the last 3 to 4 years, period. There is a sieve operating in this budget, period. Someone has to stick that finger in the dike, period. It is not fiscally responsible at this time, period.
Is that it? Thank you. Anyone else?
I move the minutes amended.
No,
I move-
I have,
yeah.
I have one change myself,
Okay.
thank you. On page 4, fourth line from the top, right after RFP, and if we seed your research, and you put, delete you put together, that will be a big leg up for your firm. That's the intent of that.
My motion stands.
Was moved and seconded to accept the minutes as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Approval of the bills, we have none. approval.
Oh, you know what, Harvey? I'd like to ask, both Lynn and Bob were missing at the last meeting. I'd like to ask them the question about that final bill from Rico, if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. At our last meeting in the bills, there was the final for Brico.
Yep.
I was wondering, so we're not going to have any more activity, and what
Okay.
prolonged it to take that long for that invoice to come in?
Actually, so that was the final payment on the DWRF, the water main project in the city. And what took so long to finalize that literally was the Department of Environmental Quality. Remember, they overlooked it because it was a DWRF fund, till they closed it out on their books.
Okay.
They had to forward it on to HRC, which then met with us, and we met with Brico, and that was finalized.
That makes sense. Great, thank you very much. Thanks,
I have some
Harvey.
questions on the attorney invoices, which were in our packet today. Just-
We're not on that yet.
Okay, well, what agenda item would that be? Would that be during
We're
the
gonna
council
be,
comments or manager's report? These are Tim's invoices, not
Yeah,
the...
I understand.
Actually, I thought that maybe this would be the time, maybe I'm reading the invoice wrong, but the invoice says that the total amount of the bill is $12,562. Says there was a previous balance of $9,000. So the balance due, as submitted under this invoice, is $21,605. So to me, this is a request to pay the outstanding balance. So I would think this would be the appropriate time to bring this conversation.
That's fine, we can do that.
Okay. All right, thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Okay.
Go.
My question is, I have several questions on the attorney invoices, and with that being, my first question is with the 21,000 with the previous balance, Lynn, I'm just curious as to, is that normal for us to, is that a split billing period, or how did that be that we still have a previous balance?
That I would have to ask Lori, but generally that 9,000 would have been the retainer and for each month. So I would presume, but without her here to verify, that the retainer 1 month did not get paid.
Okay, so the 12,562, does that include this month's retainer as well?
I believe so, yes. It normally does include the retainer.
All right, because I'm looking at this, and this was my point a few months ago, where $21,000 in attorney fees. I mean, we used to pay before 2015 $7,500 all in a retainer, and now we're seeing bills of $12,000, $13,000, $15,000, and now $21,000. Now I know you can split hairs and say maybe that's the previous. Okay, maybe that's not correct, but the point is that I really don't think we have any checks and balances over how many hours we are. There's no control as to how many hours we're being billed. I mean, it's just kind of a blank check at this point.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
If I could just clarify, so the previous balance showing on the bill that's included in the packet for $9,043 pertains to January time. The current invoice included with this packet covers February time. Also, I'll note that there are 2 consultant bills which total approximately just around $2,900 that are passed through, included in the $12,562 as well.
Well, I mean, okay, then I'll just get into my questions, and I'll get to my point as well. So my first question is on 2/9, February 9th. There was a call with Councilmember Kivel, and then there was also a call with City Manager Ladner regarding an agenda and conflict of interest investigation. So 0.2 hours and 0.3 hours. I'm just curious. Oh, then the next day, or 3 days later, there's a call with Councilmember Kramer regarding the agenda as well. So I'm just curious, what were you talking about during these calls? It says conflict of interest investigation. Was this how we're going to put it on the agenda?
Can you help me orient?
Yep.
I'm
This
trying to
is,
find what
Page
actually you're
8.
talking about.
Yep, page 8.
Where's the Kramer of 212? So that was just to talk about the agenda. I don't know specifically without having the agenda in front of me, but it might have been related to the conflict of interest issue.
Because there's 3 phone calls within 3 days about this conflict of interest. I mean, I wasn't calling you about this. I remember there was some discussion about how to put this on the agenda as a closed session or open session, and so I don't know if that was anything to do with it, but I just wanted some clarification, so I guess I'll wait to hear. Next, I'm curious as to between 217 and 224, there was some multiple entries. I mean, I tallied it, it's 13 hours, and I think there's even more hours regarding council rules. So 13 hours, I mean, it seems like a lot of legal work. Are we trying to change the council rules? And in fact, there was a call with Chief Collins. Were you involved in any changing of the rules? I'm curious that we were investigating.
I was not involved in changing of any rules. What I was talking to the attorney about was for a legal opinion on enforcement of city ordinances as to disruptions of public meetings.
Well, yeah, because I'm looking at this, and literally 13 hours that was between various entries, half an hour here, hour and a half here, talking to city manager, various members on council about changing of our council rules, and I have no clue what this is even about.
Well, can you point me to where the entries are where I'm talking to council members about the quote-unquote changing of the rules?
Okay. I had it today. Hold on. Give me a moment. 217. Receipt review correspondent. This is with the police chief. Page 10, 217. Receipt review correspondence from police chief regarding council meeting rules and procedures. Underneath it, begin legal research regarding enforcement of council rules and procedures. That's an hour. There's other pages. There was on 220. I'm looking for a specific council member. I will look through that. I don't have the exact entry in front of me, but here's one. Multiple telephone conferences with city manager. This was 222, and then one of it says council rules. So you were talking to Lynn. You were talking to the chief. I swear I saw one with the council member. But if that's not the case, I apologize.
This was really just to respond to the police chief's inquiry about disruptions at a meeting. It required a certain amount of legal research to provide that legal opinion. And, I worked the time and it's been billed.
Well, I mean, there's over 10 entries here.
There's a substantial amount that's no charged, because I
mean,
felt it was something that I shouldn't charge to the city.
So what are we concerned about? I mean, I'm not going to let this go. I mean, we have 13 hours billable hours. I'm not getting any answers of what we're looking to change.
There was nothing about changing the rules.
Okay.
It was about enforcing council rules and dealing with disruptions of an open meeting.
Which meeting
Which
specifically?
meeting?
No specific meeting.
Which disruptions are we
If
talking
an
about?
open meeting were to be disrupted, that's what the legal opinion pertains to.
13 hours. Like I said, there's over 10 entries, phone calls. This seems pretty extensive. So if there's this big of a problem, it should come before council. I mean,
Okay, you done, Joe?
okay, next, 218, there was a personal matter. 8 hours were spent. I don't want to know exactly what the personal matter was.
Which page are you on?
218.
Which page are you on?
Let me find the exact dates. I mean, there's so many entries here of our hours. It's hard to keep track of how much we're really getting milked here. I mean, here it is.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I
Yes.
object to the term being milked.
Well,
This is my
what it
bill,
is.
this is my time
This
that
is
I
exactly
worked.
what it is.
That's what it is.
I
This
mean,
is my bill, the time's been worked. I
Keep
object
personal comments out of it.
all right,
to
well,
being milked phrase.
okay. Well, you can be offended. I don't
Well,
think it's
well
offensive.
taken point.
So, I disagree, but that's okay. My next question is, on 224, let me find the exact page if you need it. There was review of the report on the council member Kivel and investigation, and there was miscellaneous instances regarding 6 hours being billed for this investigation. I'm just curious why you were even involved when we hired an outside firm for $36,000 that we have to pay.
Which entries are you referring to? You keep referring to these and you're not giving me dates, pages, and references.
I think that one's on 11, toward the bottom.
Thank you. Well, I mean, it's a general comment. I mean,
So you object to your city attorney
Yes.
reviewing a different attorney, outside counsel?
That's why we hired the outside-
Regarding an
yes.
issue that's going to come before council?
Yes, absolutely. And
So
that's why we
I shouldn't be
hired.
prepared to deal with the issues that come before council?
Well, if we recall, what happened was we had to hire the outside attorney because there was a appearance of bias. So we wanted to avoid that bias. So that's why we hired the outside attorney. So I'm just curious why we're paying 7+ hours.
I'm just trying to be prepared for the matters that come before council. There were issues about open session, closed session, whether Mr. Kivel could vote on certain issues. Those were all things, I need to know what's in the written opinion of special counsel in order to be able to advise council about certain things that come before it.
All right. Well, I'll get off the
You can
soapbox.
smirk and
and-
shrug your shoulders and smile and all this, but that's my job, and that's what I did. I charged some of it to the city, and some of it is no charge.
Well, what I'm looking out for is the taxpayers here. And this is, as I said when I started, each month, we have no checks and balances out of how many hours are being billed. And it's just a blank check. So for me to ask questions, I'm not going to make any apologies for that. And if I smirk a little, it's because I don't think we're getting a fair shake. So,
Mr.
You
Mayor Pro
made your
Tem?
point clear.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
If you'll notice, the two bills are right at around $9,000, which is fairly typical for the entire time that I've been working for the city of South Lyon. Give or take, there are some outliers above and below, but this is very much in line with the number of hours that I work overtime.
it was 12,000.
Okay.
That's what?
2,800 of which is an outside bill for a consultant, which puts it right around $9,000.
Mary?
I just wanted to go on the record and state that I think that we're asking you to do a job, we're asking you questions that you need to be prepared for. So to conduct legal research takes time, and I don't see anything out of the ordinary, especially because I'm familiar with legal billing, and it's 30 minutes here, 60 minutes here, an hour here, and that's your job. So I don't think you're doing anything out of the ordinary from what we're already asking you to do. If we have department heads calling you, asking you questions, seeking advice, I would expect you to give them advice. If it takes you a little bit of time to research the topic, familiarize yourself with it. That's what I would expect from our city attorney. Furthermore, I think it's somewhat hypocritical that we're going to complain about the bills that are in front of us, yet we just hired Dykema to do an investigation for $36,000. So at the same time, like I said, I would encourage our department heads, if we're paying a retainer of $9,000+, I would encourage them to utilize your services. You're our resource. So continue doing what you're doing. And like I said, this is not out of the ordinary, especially because Lynn had just clarified that the previous month hasn't been paid.
Response.
Okay, just a minute. Maggie's next. You already had a turn.
Yes, I review bills. I used to be in-house counsel, so I'm used to reviewing bills. And some of these points, contrary to Councilwoman Mary, I found them to be out of the ordinary. And I'm just going to make a statement, and it was my understanding that when we hired that wonderful firm, Dykema Gossett, that your work on the Kivel conflict of interest matter ceased. So I was quite shocked to see that you were continuing to bill the city on matters that had clearly been turned over to Dykema Gossett for very specific reasons.
There's nothing, I have not billed for any time related to that investigation. That time is after his report is rendered,
Okay, well,
Muskovitz's report.
okay,
I
February
read his
1st,
report.
on page
I
7.
believe that's billable, legitimate time that I need to read his report so that I can deal with any issues that come up related to it.
He was going to deal with the
Are
issues.
you trying to say I shouldn't have read Mr. Muskovitz's
No,
report?
you can read the report, but you billed a lot of time to the Kivel matter when there was already an attorney retained to do it. It was
What
clear
time?
when, it was, well, we'll start with February 1st on page 7. Continued review of conflicts of interest research. Page, you spent 30 minutes there. Then we go down to February 2nd. Begin preparation of letter regarding conflicts of interest. You weren't the attorney on that conflict matter. It
When was Dykema hired?
Pardon?
When was Dykema hired?
Dykema, in December, we made that decision. Dykema was in December. That was in December. And then I continued to go, February 6th, a half hour on it. And then, so I'm just making a general statement. It was my understanding Dykema Gossett was responsible for the conflict of interest issue. And if you go back into the minutes, you will see that I believe, I will stand corrected, but I believe it was a unanimous decision to hire Dyke Magossett and remove Johnson Rosati from the investigative process. That, to me, that was a very clear message. So that's my first issue. My second issue is I was shocked to find out that there were hours spent on council meeting rules, particularly on page 10, on February 20th, on February 21st, enforcement of council rules, and the discussion with the chief of police. Chief, was there a target? Was there a specific individual or group of individuals that you were concerned were coming into the meetings causing a disturbance?
I was concerned with being prepared because of the tone of several different meetings and various individuals. And rather than wait until an incident occurred and there was an actual disruption of the meeting, I wanted to know which ordinances would be validly enforced and how to minimize potential liability to the city.
Okay, I'm going to make a comment on that. And while Councilwoman Mary is talking about hypocrites, let me add my comment about hypocrites.
No, wait a minute.
No,
Let's talk about the bill.
This is
She's
about
able
the
to say
bill.
what she wants,
This is
and-
about the bill.
Gavel me?
This is about the bill. There is research going on behind the scenes between you, the city attorney, regarding what somebody perceives is maybe disruption that could happen in a meeting. None of this occurred when Mike Kramer sat here with his temper and disrupted the council. So to me, this seems to be, there is a very selective reason why this research is going on at this time.
Because you were disruptive, that's why.
Not me.
Were you not at that meeting? Did you not see what happened? You were being gavelled multiple times, and you continued to talk.
I'm going to be talking about that, Mary, during my
Let her
council
finish,
comment.
Sorry.
But that's council comment. That's during council comment. So you are in error. But here you have people up here doing things, and nothing gets done, and all of a sudden now, we have to look at the rules. So that's my comment on that. Next, Tim, how, did you revise the contract regarding the police officer, special resource officer?
I did recently.
Okay, what do you mean recently?
I provided a revised SRO agreement to the city manager last week.
Okay, you have in your billing that on February 12th, you edited, revised the school resource officer agreement. Did you not do it on February 12th?
I started reviewing it. Edits may be a misstatement. I did not edit it. I reviewed it and then proceeded to do research regarding various issues that came up.
Okay. And then I'm just curious, on your research, it starts on page 7, the continued research regarding the South Lyon Economic Development Corporation. That was on February 2nd. What was your research on that? Then you have a correspondence to the clerk on February 6th. South Lyon Economic Development Corporation.
Which page are you on?
I'm on page 7.
That was to follow up, you've made mention of
Right.
the Economic Development Corporation showing up in the city's audit report several times. I wanted to find out where we were at as far as the bylaws, articles, whether it needs to be in existence, and how we would go about dissolving it if it can be dissolved, and it's appropriate to do so.
And what did your research show? Did you find anything?
I was not able to find very many city documents regarding that corporation, but I was able to back into the amended articles from 1975. That was my correspondence to the city clerk. My next step would be to advise the city manager about what the amended articles require for dissolution, as well as what the statute provides.
Have you gone to the city minutes in the year somewhere, 1980, late 1980s, start maybe with 1985, and see if there is just some basic information in the minutes of the corporation to see if it had been dissolved? I would think that to dissolve that corporation, it would have required council approval. Didn't occur to you. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
All right, anyone else down there?
Just a general comment that this character assassination continues. It's really disturbing to have to listen to this nonsense every single meeting. There's nothing constructive taking place. It's simply a barrage of insults. It really should stop.
If I could respond. As I mentioned, in 2015, we paid $7,500 a month in attorney fees, okay? Now we're paying over $12,000, $13,000, $14,000, $15,000. If somebody's not going to question these bills, who's going to do it, okay? So people can have their opinions, but I'm going to keep asking these questions to know what we're paying for, because the residents deserve it. Thank you.
Okay.
And
Lynn,
I'm
is
voting
this-
no on the bills. Thank
Lynn,
you.
is this on as a action item tonight?
No.
No. Okay. Then we'll move to the approval of the agenda. Lynn?
You have in front of you an amended agenda. Unfortunately, not being here last week, I missed an old business item. Number 4 has been added to consider the naming policy for parks, as that is an item that was postponed from the last meeting. When we get there, I will give you an update on that situation, and we can make a determination there.
Okay. Is there a motion on the agenda?
I move the agenda.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The agenda is approved. Now we come to public comment. If there's anyone from the public that would like to address the council, now is your chance. Please approach the microphone. State your name and address, please.
Abraham Ayub, 417 South Lafayette. I don't believe it's on the agenda, Phil's out of town, but the Easter egg hunt is going to be April 15th on Saturday. We're going to be using Volunteer Park from 10:30 to approximately 12:45. Pending Phil getting you the insurance, I just wanted to make sure that was going to be okay. I've already talked to the Junior League and soccer, just waiting to hear from lacrosse.
Motion to suspend the rules?
Is that seconded?
Second, yeah.
It needs a two-third majority. You understand that?
I understand it better than you do, because I know how to use it.
Moved and seconded to suspend the rules. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Go ahead, Maggie.
My only comment is that you're requesting action, and it's not an action item on our agenda. If you're just looking for a general, what would I do? I
It'll
mean,
be on the agenda next time you meet. I mean, that'll be the Monday before.
It'll be the Monday
egg hunt.
before.
That's why I wanted to make sure I brought it up,
Time,
that's all.
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so I'm just letting you know, I wouldn't oppose, but
No one, I know you guys never have. It's just like I said, I just wanted to bring it up because I was worried we're getting kind of close on the timeline. That's all.
yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Abe,
Okay,
thank you
thanks,
for
Abe.
bringing it.
Thank you, Abe.
Anyone else for public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Judy Keeling, 62180 Arlington Circle. I just wanted to thank the council for the time you did spend on the energy with the water department, because I think it seemed like a lot of time, but it was a lot of brainstorming. And I think renting the property and letting DTE take the expense of it all is a great idea in the end. So thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you, Judy.
Welcome, Carl.
Carl Richards, 390 Lennox. Good evening, people. Just a few comments here. Our historical society is on the move, and we're going to be having 2 cleanups at the museum area. The first one will be in April, and that's for inside cleanup, above and beyond what we pay our custodian for. And I'm not sure what the date is. I think it's the 15th, okay? I'm not quite sure on that. The second cleanup for the historical area is the outside cleanup, which we'll do in conjunction with Boy Scouts and some church volunteers and one thing and another, okay? And that will be in May. And there are also 2 city cleanups, the citywide cleanup and the Creek cleanup, which is sponsored by our DPW and the tube mill, okay? They help us out greatly, and we all kind of look forward to that. It's hard work, but it's a lot of fun too. Anyway, we need more volunteers for the Historical Society. In McCaddy Park, I'd just like to mention further comment on storm damage. There's still a lot of broken limbs and such down. We lost 3 big trees, and they're going to have stumps removed later in the spring, and new saplings will be planted to replace them. Of course, I mentioned we lost 1 big tree at the historic village, that one where they had the double blue spruces. The one went right into the brick, and it's all been cut off, and we're going to replace that one too, I imagine. The South Lyon Cemetery, we've experienced very little damage, thank goodness. Because I know where the bad trees are in that place, and I go up there and look at it, okay, and they didn't come down, okay? And I was in Volunteer Park, went all around the whole place, and I didn't see any serious damage, what I called. So I think we got a stroke of good luck, because that wind was the strongest I've ever heard. A tree across the street from my place had the loudest sound. Of course, there's a tall pine tree. The loudest sound I've ever heard in a windstorm. We didn't have any fatalities or serious automobile accidents or anything. Stuff blew all over. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl. Is there anyone else?
Hi, folks. Josie Kearns, 329 Lyon Boulevard. I just have 4 good news things to tell you, so that'll be nice. The Ups and Downs of Life poetry and short story reading is coming Friday, April 28th at 7 o'clock p.m. at Third Monk Brewing Company on Lafayette, and we really would like the community to come out and tell us your ups and downs of life, and I think that's kind of a wide range of things. It's going to be really fun. The second thing is the A&E 1 High School Art Show. The South Lyon and community high schools are working together, and we're going to have a great show out here. And I want to thank Tammy Impoletti and Debbie Linford for their volunteer efforts to do it. It's May 1st to the 26th. May 3rd is the opening, 7 to 9. The reception, we have a T-shirt contest going with the high school students, and we're getting together to decide that soon. And there is going to be a T-shirt that's decided on that, and there's going to be names of whoever is in the show on the back of the shirt, so it's going to be very cool. And then we are doing we got a grant from the Michigan Council for the Arts and Cultural Affairs for the Sustainable Art and Sound Art Show. And the sustainable art is stuff that you might throw away that's made into an art piece, so it keeps stuff out of the landfill. And the sound art is telling stories, and that you're 3 to 5 minute stories. We would invite each of the council members, Lynn, anybody else that would like to come and record a story when we get the equipment together, and I'll be telling you more about that. The last thing is that we are doing a foray into the Summer Arts Festival by putting our toe in by doing one day with combining with the Cruise In folks. It's going to be July. They do it the last Wednesday of each month from May, June, July, and August. We're going to be doing July the 27th. And we're going to in May, we're sending a call for entries for that. And I wanted to thank specifically Doug Cook and Pete Eichinger for coming to our meetings and working with us, and especially Linda Robinson, because she brokered the whole thing and had the whole idea, and it was great. We're going to have one day where we're going to do the summer art booths and stuff, and we're going to try to see how that goes, so we don't get in too much trouble by doing it by one day. It's going to be fun. The other thing is a huge thank you to Ken Mihalik for his amazing expertise and hard work on the posters, flyers, T-shirts, and incredible design of these items and postcards and stuff. He's just been working like crazy in the middle of doing everything else. So thank you, and thanks for your support, and more stuff to come. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, my name is Ted Wallace, 115 Elm Place, right here in downtown South Lyon. Several people may not be aware, you folks included, that the Witch's Hat will be open up this Sunday and every Sunday after that except for Father's Day. We like to open it up to the public, and we're desperate for help. It is a Historical Society project. We need docents to help out. And Dosen is somebody that walks people around and shows a lot of our local history, and I think people would be very surprised at what a wonderful facility that we have right here in McCaddy Park. And the first of these sessions starts this Sunday from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. It's open to the public, no charges. And it certainly is fun to listen to the children go ooh and ah at the different old things in there, that from butter makers to old-fashioned butter makers to all kind. Well, the basement's full of all kinds of archives too. So it's a case of seeing and believing, and it's right here in our town. And we have visitors come from out of town that are amazed at what we have here. We're very lucky, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, Ted.
Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone, and those at home. I'd like to introduce myself. I know I've been here a couple times. My name is Joyce Closey, and I'm here tonight to announce I'll be running for one of 3 city council seats available this November. Last year, during a debate, the mayor encouraged me to run for council if I didn't like the way things were going. I wanted to thank John for his encouragement. Unfortunately, he's not here tonight because it was great advice. Though we don't always see eye to eye or agree, me and John, he's obviously very passionate about South Lyon, as am I. I believe I have good analytical skills to contribute and will assist a new council with making prudent governmental decisions going forward. 3 city council seats are available to be filled by candidates who are interested in working with the citizens, the council, city departments, commissions, and surrounding communities. Council needs and the community is searching for candidates who have a genuine commitment to public service. I am that candidate. I will not let this community down by breaching the public trust. On council, my priorities will be to critically evaluate the city's budget and do so with the goals of financial responsibility and protecting the taxpayers. I have concerns about the city's budget, specifically that last year expenditures exceeded revenue. More is going out than is coming in. As a taxpayer, this is highly concerning, and none of us have this luxury in our personal lives. I've managed a retail budget for a business. I know how to read a profit and loss statement, and I've managed a business and a medical practice under budgetary constraints. This may be an uncomfortable concept for some, but budgets are vital. I bring to the table a strong desire to prudently manage the city's finances with the income that's available. This philosophy serves not only the taxpayers, but is key to the city's long-term financial stability. My commitment to budgetary assessment and planning is essential if taxpayers are going to have justified faith in the financial stability of our city and our government, to be happy with our city, and to protect police and fire services and retirement benefits. As a member of council, I will be responsive to input from our residents and business owners. I'll be a council member who will take an active role in assisting the downtown efforts, supporting community events, and strategizing with those who want to have a positive impact. I live within walking distance of downtown, and I want a viable downtown. I am a council member who will work with the Economic Development Director and businesses to achieve success in the downtown, not failure. This community has many people already working or lending their time to these efforts. I value these people who have much to offer and make contributions to our community. I support the Cable Commission and the Culture Arts Commission, to name a few, and believe they provide necessary programs and events that add value to our community. As a council member, I will continue to support these efforts in the budgetary process, and I look forward to working with them in November. As you know, South Lyon has a large senior community. I'm thankful to the seniors for their contributions and volunteer hours to our community. As a council member, I would like to bring programming to our senior center for active living that models other communities around us like Novi. I would also like to work with our state rep in an effort to bring grants and assistance to this group of citizens. I would work to incorporate physical wellness and healthy living activities. We have trails and even volunteer parks that are ideal for this. I believe we need to address both academic and physical needs of our seniors and the community as a whole. As a council member, I will support budgetary items that enrich these quality of life activities and thus strengthen our community. That brings me to my most significant motivation for running for city council: the citizens. I hear from citizens that they don't feel the city takes their complaints or concerns seriously or blows them off. This is purposely a very broad statement because the complaints I've heard have been so broad and varied. I'm interested in listening to our citizens who have concerns, problems, or issues and working with them, and the city, for resolution and harmony. Our taxpayers deserve to be heard and taken seriously, with a genuine approach to resolving conflict rather than lengthy battles which end up solving nothing. I come to City Council with an interest in actually representing the taxpayers. I'm excited, genuinely, to be running for City Council, and I've received tremendous support from my friends, neighbors, and acquaintances. I formed my committee and filed the paperwork, and I'm meeting with my campaign volunteers within the next 30 days. I'm ready to go, and people are on board with me. Thank you for providing me with a couple minutes to explain who I am and what I stand for. I've been running for City Council for some time, and tonight it's official.
Anyone else? All right, we'll close public comment, and we'll go to old business. The second reading of the ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the city of South Lyon, conditionally rezoning 500 Stryker Street, parcel number 21-29-176-012 from R3, parents one family residential, to L1 light industrial. This is the second reading. Is there any changes from the first reading?
Well, if I may, Mr. Mayor
Yes.
Pro Tem, there are two parts to the agenda item tonight, and I did not list them as separate agenda items in the agenda note. So the first one would be the second reading of the ordinance to conditionally rezone the property. The second would be to consider approval of the conditional rezoning agreement. That agreement is set forth in the ordinance itself and would be executed as a separate document. So council has seen both of these, and due to the second reading, we'd be ready to have council consider approving the agreement itself. That's really the only difference. There are no changes in the language of the ordinance, no changes in the agreement. If there are any questions, I can try and answer anything that people have as far as questions.
Glenn?
The only question that I had is, in the event that the approval for the transition to I-1 takes place and the project isn't fulfilled, will it revert automatically back to R3?
Right. There is a timeline that's laid out in the agenda note and also in the agreement.
I thought I had seen that, but I wanted
benchmarks
to
of
make
6
sure.
months to do the final site plan. Then there's also a building permit and then a final certificate of occupancy benchmark that they would have to meet. Otherwise, it will revert back to the original zone.
Thank you.
And that's provided for by statute as well.
Anyone else? All right, is there a motion on the approve the second reading?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Kibble, second by Parison to approve the second reading of the ordinance. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. That motion carries. And now we're on the motion to approve conditional rezoning agreement between Raymond Shovers and the city of South Lyon regarding parcel I just read off, and authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the agreement. Is there any discussion on that? Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion Kibble, second Parisian. Did I say your name right?
Parisian.
Parisian, thank you. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Second, consider approval of the final bill submitted by Dykema Gossett for services rendered during the conflict of interest review/investigation. Who's presenting
I'll
this?
take this. Mr. Meskovitz submitted his bill last week. It is a due upon receipt, which is why it is on the agenda this evening as opposed to waiting until we pay bills in April. It is for fees of $35,963.50 and disbursements of $55.10. That's for things like copies, scanning, and printing expenses. So
May I open it up?
Go ahead.
So I want to come back to what Councilmember Mary said about being hypocritical about questioning Tim's invoices while having a big invoice in front of us. I will first want to state that it's not hypocritical at all. I didn't cause this mess. People who voted for this to hire him did not cause this mess. It was unanimous by council to hire this outside firm, as recommended by Councilmember Kramer. And I don't always agree with Kramer, but you know he got it right this time, and he should be applauded for making this recommendation. But back to what I was saying about hypocritical.
Is this a discussion of the bill?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
All right,
We
give
should,
the point.
shouldn't, no, well, I'll get there. Thank you. It's not hypocritical because if our city attorney would have done his job the first time, we would not have to hire an outside firm. That's why. I did not create this. Tim rendered an opinion, and then all of a sudden, a couple days later, makes a complete 180, changes his advice, and says that no wrongdoing has occurred. Okay, that's what happened, and I submitted that legal opinion. It's in the minutes for anybody who wants to see it. And then council came up and said, as a group, not me, as a group, said, wait a minute. Let's back up a little and take another look at this. Council does, and council says, look, we need to look at this from an outside firm. And that's why, it's because we wanted to avoid the bias. So, fast forward, we hire a very distinguished law firm, Dykema Gossick, who, again, Kramer recommended, and I trust his legal judgment on this. He's actually a lawyer and knows this stuff and recommends this firm, and we go with them. And he finds that 7 misdemeanors occurred. This is not me. I'm just sitting up here and telling what was reported. 7 misdemeanors occurred. So the hypocritical thing to me is to be a lawyer and hear a lawyer say 7 misdemeanors occurred and then vote to do nothing. That's the hypocritical. So, you know, call it what you want, but it's no coincidence that this is an election year, okay? And the vote shook out. Now political favors erode. That's the sad reality of this.
Mary?
And I'm not done, please.
Oh, you sounded like you were done.
No, I'm catching my breath because I think it's terrible what's going on to our fine city. Is that we have an instance, and it's a 3-3 vote, and people vote to protect their friends, and all of a sudden the taxpayers are fleeced now with $36,000. It's not right. So, you know, the thing I don't understand is if it was found that 7 misdemeanors occurred, Chief, is there anything that legal is going to be doing about this? I mean, is there a reason why this is not being pursued? I mean, if that's the case, can we send it to Michigan State Police? I mean, I'm just curious why there's no outside action.
All that would be required for the police department to put together an investigation on top of the one that's already been done would be for somebody to walk through the door of the police department and make a criminal complaint, much like was done by one of your fellow council members once before. At that time, there was a distinct conflict of interest, and we had no choice but to send it out to the sheriff's office. In this case, I don't believe there is a conflict of interest as to investigation by the police department and potential referral to the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office for an impartial decision as to whether or not one or more warrants should or should not be issued.
I may have some more comments, but I'll let other people speak.
Mary, you asked to be recognized.
Thank you. I wanted to first start off by saying, frankly, I do think that this is somewhat hypocritical because if we're going to scrutinize Johnson Rosati's invoices so diligently, I think we should be doing the same to these invoices as well. Why are we not scrutinizing these invoices as well? Granted, Both firms are fantastic law firms. Both firms are prestigious. We knew that when we hired Dykema Gossett that they were an expensive firm, that with their legal expertise comes a hefty price tag. We knew that as council, and the bill that sits in front of us is what sits in front of us. We as a council made that decision, and now we have to own it. Secondly, I do feel like we have an issue here. Councilman Rizzi, you ran on the platform of transparency for government, and you sat up here and just blatantly lied to the public. Nothing wasn't done at that meeting. We had the mayor as well as Councilman Waddell, who also voted for a written reprimand. That was not found in favor. It was shut down. There was no majority. I made the suggestion that we suspend Councilman Kibble. I didn't think a written reprimand was enough. I also didn't think a criminal pursuit was justified. So I thought, in my opinion, on what was right and what, based upon the evidence that was provided for us with the investigative report, a suspension would be valid. And that did not have any support. So nothing wasn't done. That's a blatant lie. You need to be transparent. You can't just tell your side of the story. You need to be able to say objectively, okay, this is what it is, but then this is the other side, so that the people have a full idea of what's going on. I know there's a lot of ego in this room, but we need to set it aside, put the people first, put the citizens first, and give them full transparency. With that being said, I think that, like I said, frankly, if people are listening at home, I personally appreciate that, because what you're seeing on Facebook, which is where I gathered that comment, is something that's just one-sided. Do your due diligence, do your research. The South Lyon Herald actually did a fantastic job portraying what happened that night. They specifically stated what each council member thought and what we wanted. So nothing wasn't done. We didn't just sit back and protect a friend. To me, there are no friends on council. I don't sit up here to make friends. I sit up here to look at the laws, look at the ordinance, look at the charter, and look within reason as to what the city needs and what's best for the city. I'm not up here to be a friend. So I think you need to put the ego aside and just call it what it is. Be transparent. Don't be a liar.
Well, there's a term.
Wait a minute, Joe.
Yeah.
It's not your turn.
Okay.
Is anyone else who hasn't spoken yet? Maggie?
You know, I want to put some perspective on this invoice. And being a lawyer, being a practicing attorney, my strong strengths actually are in transactional negotiation, settlement, and research. I researched both at the federal courts and at the Court of Appeals. So I have a very keen eye towards research. I would like to disagree vehemently with Councilwoman Mary. She's not a licensed attorney. She needs to pass her bar first. She doesn't have the experience that I have, almost 30 years, in researching case law. Her comment is in error. I scrutinized the Dykema Gossett bill, and I scrutinized Dykema Gossett's research that they had in the investigative report. And I will tell you this. This city has never seen a law firm with the kind of legal work that was presented to it through Dykema Gossett in their report. That attorney was extremely thorough. He was detailed. Most importantly, he was not biased, and he was very objective. He was objective in his discussions, in his analysis, and in his conclusions. The Dykema investigative report is a far cry from the embarrassment of the tainted investigation by Johnson Rosati. And let me explain why I felt the Johnson Rosati investigative report was tainted. Because this goes to the essence of research, transparency, and providing to council good legal advice. About a month and a half ago, I wrote a stinging letter to Tim Wilhelm regarding his research that I inquired into. And I'm glad I did it. I have been thanked for the message that was delivered to Tim, and actually it was probably some of my best writing. And what happened was, in the research that I looked at that Tim turned over to me, because I asked to see the research, was a particular Attorney General opinion, 6151. And I looked at that research that Tim had done regarding the conflict issue. I read that Attorney General opinion. I looked at Tim's opinions that he was rendering on the Kivel conflict of interest matter. And I, as an experienced research attorney, was dumbfounded, baffled, and shocked that his own research that appeared to indicate potential criminal liability was missing, deleted, not even referred to in the Johnson-Rosati investigative report. And as a little bit of an investigator myself, I began to say, why is this Attorney General opinion not in the investigative report from Johnson-Rosati when Tim actually had the case, the Attorney General opinion in front of him? I now go to the Dykema-Gossett report, and I read it. I read every line. I read every case in it. And guess what I find on page 16 of the Dykema-Gossett report? On page 16 of that Dykema-Gossett report is the very same Attorney General opinion. Dykema-Gossett found that opinion. They found that Attorney General opinion that clearly supported a finding of possible criminal liability. That's when I knew I could no longer rely on the legal advice from Johnson-Rosati because their advice was flawed, it was deceitful, because it did not give me all the research that had been found on the Kivel matter. I'm not a stupid kid. I can make my own conclusions based on the research, but give me the research. But when you start hiding the research and manipulating what I see as an elected official so that I can make decisions, that's when I throw in the towel and I start making my decisions. The Dykema-Gossett report and this invoice makes the case that Dykema-Gossett should be the city's attorney. And the Johnson-Rosati report makes the case that Johnson-Rosati needs to be terminated as the city attorney. Don't ever lie to me again in research. That is the kiss of death for a lawyer. That is the kiss of death. Next, as to payment of the invoice, City Council had an opportunity for repayment of the invoice. It's called restitution. If Galis, if Waddell, or Councilwoman Mary, if either one of them had voted to move this into prosecution, Kivel could have sat back, made a deal, and part of that deal we could have instructed, could have included repayment of this invoice. Well, as we know, that didn't happen. So now, what has happened, and Councilman Reese is right. Unless this council comes up with a solution, taxpayers in the city have been fleeced. And I said it the night the decision was made. You people got screwed. You got screwed. This council didn't even think about the taxpayers. And I would disagree with Councilwoman Mary. There is a different standard on this council for people who have friends on this council and for people who have enemies on this council. And Joe is absolutely right. Political favors will be paid back the next 7 months for that decision. Next, as to the budget, Lynn, what is left in the budget for attorney fees? Line item 826 in the general fund operation. We budgeted for $90,000. What's left in it?
Don't have my report with me, but I'll see if I can pull it up. I do know there's not enough to cover this bill plus the additional retainer, and so I have been working on an amendment for the next meeting for that, but I don't know the exact
Is there money in
figures.
that fund to pay Dykema-Gossett tonight, 36018?
Yes.
Okay, I would move that the balance in the attorney funds be used to pay the Dykema-Gossett bill. I mean, that's going to be my motion. And Johnson-Rosati, you can just sit and wait to get paid. Thank
All
you.
right, there's a motion to pay the invoice from Dykema. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Kurzweil, second by Rizzi.
I have
Is there any
discussion.
further discussion?
Yes. So, and there's, what I was getting at with the Tim's invoices earlier, the Johnson
No,
Rosati.
we're on the Dykema.
Well, you
We're on the
allowed
Dykema.
Mary to, this involves Dykema, you allowed Mary to have her rant and character assassination. I
You're-
should be
you're
allowed
doing
to
your
respond.
second one now.
Be fair. Be
Okay,
fair,
so,
Harvey.
It's the second
so
one.
during the beginning of the meeting, when I was questioning the Johnson Rosati law firm, you'll note that there was a lot of these discussions about agenda items regarding conflict of interest. There was legal opinions. So we're not babies. I mean, there's gamesmanship going on here, okay? So, and there's a saying in debate, and it rhymes with debate, is you don't take the bait. Okay, Mary, I'm not going to take the bait. I will tell you this, that there was a vote to send it to law enforcement, and friends voted to protect their friends. So if you want a suspension, put your money where your mouth is, and bring it, tell Lynn you want it on the next agenda, and we'll vote on a suspension until whatever's worked out for the restitution. But the votes weren't there that night to pass a suspension. This is the gamesmanship that's going on, people. So, okay, you can laugh all you want.
You can
but,
laugh all you want.
But that's what's going on, and the public knows it. So, with that said, put your money where your mouth is. If you want to have a suspension, I think for $36,000 that may be appropriate action, but put it forth. You didn't make a motion the last time. Okay.
Can I do that now? Can I ask Lynn for
No,
that?
we're on
No.
bills right now.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
No, comments over. You had your chance. All right, the motion and second.
We normally let people speak.
Excuse me, point of order?
What's your point of order?
Well, I'm questioning what is your parliamentary procedure for disallowing public comment on this issue?
She made public comment during public comment.
No, she's commenting on the Dykema matter.
I'm not accepting public comment on this matter.
And what is the reason? What is your parliamentarian rule
Because
for
we've
this?
had public comment.
No, she can't comment on anything that's on the agenda.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Do we
Press-
have a point of order?
Yes.
I just ruled on
Yes.
it.
Yes, and I have another point of order. Past practice, since as long as I've been on this council, and Harvey, you have, is that we allow members of the public to come up to the microphone and speak on items in front of us.
And that's when the chairman or the mayor says, if you have any comments on other things other than what's on the agenda. I did not say that today before public comment.
Well, you don't have to be a dictator tonight.
Public
I mean, you
comment
should
is
let her
over.
speak. I mean, that's the only
Right.
appropriate
So,
thing to do.
wait a minute. Point of order. Where did this rule come from, Harvey? Where did this rule come from?
Past practice has been,
No,
That-
no. Where did this rule come from? I do not see it. Let me, just a minute.
we're not going to have a discussion on this.
Well, you're using a rule that doesn't exist.
I'm saying public comment is over.
It's not your meeting, Harvey. It belongs to the public.
I guess
He
it
runs
is
the meeting.
my meeting to chair.
He runs the meeting.
All in favor of paying the Dykema bills, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The bills are passed. Now, on to consider adoption of the policy statement, use of facade grant funds for the historic downtown core district, facade improvement and sign grant program document, facade improvement grant priority policy, facade improvements and grant application and sign grant application. Bob?
Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to ask for a tabling this until the last meeting in April for this reason. I've had discussions with Lynn and City Attorney. It is in fact illegal, from the information that was given me, for a city to provide the grants. The documents would have to be changed so that the money is transferred to the DDA. And then the DDA would have to approve it. So I would ask that we tweak minor adjustments to the documents, take that to the meeting, the DDA meeting, which is after the first council meeting, and then come back for council discussion upon possible action at the last meeting in April. And it's the correct thing to do.
Okay, is there a motion to postpone to the second meeting in April?
Yes, I'll make the motion to postpone to the second meeting in
Is there
April.
a second?
I was hoping we could have some discussion on this.
You can have discussion after it's seconded. Is there a second?
No, I think a motion to postpone is not debatable.
Well, then have your discussion ahead of time.
Yes, it is debatable.
Thank you, I knew it was.
All right. Do we have a second?
No. There's a motion on the table now.
I need a second to postpone the
Second.
meeting. Okay, seconded then by Kurzweil. And now discussion. Go ahead.
Well, I was
believe-
hoping that,
Oh.
I'd like to make a comment if I could.
All right.
The DDA should be the vehicle that this is funded through, not the city itself. And my comment is, you've got 2 years that are remaining on payments to the asset in the parking lot to offset that bond cost. I was getting some numbers from Lynn today about essentially what the TIF is generating now, and I think that it's important that the DDA themselves come to a conclusion about what all programs you would like to end up having would be, what the cost of those programs are, and this program itself should end up being a part and parcel of whatever your budget is. The whole objective of the DDA is to do exactly these types of projects. So it should end up being a product of the TIF that's generated as a result of that offset in taxes. So that's the comment that I wanted to make.
All right. Any other comment? Yeah, Maggie?
I have 2 comments. I completely and vehemently disagree with that approach, because that's the approach that has kept the downtown on a life support. Let's kick the can down the road. Let's continue to put up obstacles. I think this facade grant program works. You restructure it. You get it approved at the end of April. It's going to take at least a month and a half for people to get plans together. The work probably won't even be completed until the end of July. By that time, we'll have an opportunity to work on a budget. I say we fund this and stop playing around with that downtown. I mean, every time I go into the minutes and do research, it is just one more thing that this council does 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. Get it done, for Pete's sake. We know this program works. You have people lined up that are ready to use it. You have a cost already in place as to what it's going to be. The city needs to make a decision at the end of April. Are you going to continue down this road of kicking the can, or are you going to start making an investment in the downtown? Try it. You've got nothing to lose. Nothing. Absolutely nothing to lose. Every other town is investing. They're doing facade grants. Everybody seems to understand what the formula is, except for the people out here in South Lyon. I am not in favor of this being delayed. I am not in favor of the can being kicked down the road. And I think this program needs to be funded. All you got to do is tell people funds will be ready after July 1st. That's it. But get the program rolling and get some enthusiasm going in that downtown. This stuff of delaying and delaying and delaying, it's got to stop. Nothing gets done.
Go ahead, you respond to that.
I have no intentions in delaying anything. It's not within my power. But we're creating a new culture downtown, certainly, and things don't happen overnight. I think we have been working to train the DDA in their roles and responsibilities. We started bringing in the idea of the Main Street program, which will enter into this facade grant program. And so when council allows it, the DDA and myself are ready whatever action the city council takes.
Okay, one more time.
Follow up. So I just want to make sure that my facts are correct. If we approve this grant the way it's supposed to be, through the DDA, and they sign the documents, and you're asking for the end of April, correct?
Correct.
So that's May, June. We will have an opportunity to fund the budget, to make funds available after the 1st of July. Do you have candidates ready to go with the facade program?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
To be honest, I have candidates for most of it, but not all of it. So
Doesn't-
if there are budget issues, there is a drop back. I mean, I have to be honest with you. Right now, I have a sheet which shows we have definite, in the planning stages, drawing preparations for 5 buildings. And that is $35,000. 10 sign grants might be a bit much for the first year. So all I'm saying is because the budget is that we have, right now as we speak, 5 of the 7 buildings that I've been in discussion with are going to do their projects this construction season. 2 may, it's doubtful.
But you have candidates?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Also, when we were at the workshop, this did not come up, that this had to go through the DDA rather than the city?
From my vantage point, because I was talking about how this has been done in other communities, and my involvement direct with a city, my direct involvement with facade grants was 18 years ago for the city of Rochester. So I was not aware of the city inability to fund direct. I myself was not aware of that.
Well, at that workshop, we had the city attorney there. I'm surprised it didn't come up with him. Did you know about this, Tim? That's okay, all right.
All right.
Getting up to speed
Yep.
on it.
All right. And
Barbie, I'd like-
Are there other comments? Just
Yes.
remember, this is a motion to postpone. Go ahead.
I get that. I just wanted to say, ask a question, actually. Is there an ability for the DDA to take a loan from the city where we'll be reimbursed for this? It can't be lost on people that this is tax dollars. DDA, the TIF is something that's a product of the escalation in value of the downtown. That's the money that you're working with for the downtown. This is general fund tax dollars that'll actually be supporting these private property owners to be enriched by the fact of the improvements on their properties. This is private property that we're amending. So I'm wondering, do you have a feel whether or not it's allowable for the DDA to take a loan from the city?
I do not know as far as a loan. I'm aware that other cities have made appropriations to DDAs. I am not sure of a loan. My gut tells me it wouldn't be allowed, but I'm not sure of that. I just am absolutely not sure of that.
It seems to me that we've had circumstances like that where the city has offset the missing DDA funds when the value of downtown had gone
right
below, and then we would end
That's
up
within
supplementing
the law.
them.
The city has to make it whole.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
As far as the DDA being the vehicle, for anybody that's, in addition to council, anybody listening, Public Act 169, the state's historic preservation law, designates historic preservation as a public purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And that has withheld all the amendments to Public Act 169 since 1970. That's why it's just the facade. It does not apply to any interior. It's just the facade, which is to be for historic buildings in the public realm.
Thank you.
Okay. Joe?
So you said you have 5 candidates that are...
5 candidates ready to go. Probably 3 signs within those 5 buildings ready to go. 3 of the 5 buildings.
So, I mean, that just shows that we are busting at the seams with businesses asking for help, crying for help, some sort of financial help, and they're willing to take advantage of this. They're willing to make an investment if we're willing to work with them. And I think there's an arcane type of thinking that if it's private property, that the city or the government is hands off. Well, yes, I consider myself, I'm not going to get into it, but limited government person, but I'll tell you what, these business owners, they pay a lot of taxes. So to say that this is taxpayer money that we're giving away is a little flawed, because the business owners pay a lot of taxes as well. they're essentially getting their money back and getting a contribution. And I will also point out that the downtown itself does not belong to any one business. It belongs to all of us as a community. And not just the city of South Lyon residents. It belongs to everybody who spends money there, goes down there, takes a walk. So for us as a government to put this program and move it forward, I think is a step in the right direction. And it just really speaks to the mindset that our city council needs to move towards. So thank you for taking this on. Let's get it done and get it done quick. Thank you.
All right, Maggie again.
I think Joe brings up a good point, and that is this rigid policy, this short-sightedness, that this is private property and we're not going to do anything to help it. It would be one thing if we were paying for all of the facade grant, but we're not. This is only a 50-50 match. So, and there's a max on it, there's a cap on it, so somebody can't come in and take out all of the money. I think that there is a culture problem even on this council. And I think we have to try something different, because the ways that the old council worked, you can see you have a downtown on life support. So rather than ignoring the downtown, I say that it's time that we participate in its revival, we participate in its rebirth, we get on board with this facade grant. That's what we need to do. You need to move forward with a different model, because the model that some of you have been operating under has brought the downtown to its knees. And you need some active investment and some active participation by the city. This is not a program that's going to last for 7 years. We're probably looking at 2 years at the most, maybe 3, in assisting. It is a temporary kick. It's an economic incentive to get the ball rolling downtown. And the reason you want to do it this year, and not after the DDA has gone through, plan after plan after plan, is twofold. Number one, this is a small project. It gives the DDA an opportunity to work together and begin building the downtown without being overwhelmed or overcome with details, plans, and projects. Number two, that I would say, obviously you don't have an economist on city council except for me, try taking a look at your interest rates. Your interest rates right now are extremely favorable for the business owners to go out there and borrow money on a commercial basis and take care of some of this facade work. So why wouldn't you push them in the best economic time to go out there and start improving their property when maybe 18 months from now those interest rates, because they are headed up, that is going to happen. I'm pretty confident about that. 18 months from now, they're not going to have the same interest rate. So, the part of the problem with this council is that you got to have a little bit of entrepreneur in you. You have to have a little bit of economics in you, and you got to be able to see that window. And that window is opening up now. The money is there if we can get it in the budget and get this thing rolling. I don't care if it's with private property or not. It improves that downtown. I say be done with it.
I got one more then, Harvey.
All right, Glenn, one more.
Okay. There continues to be this discussion about the decrepit, broke down downtown. By my count, there's 6 new stores going downtown. There's the Salon, there's Coral Sash, there's 115, 117. What was that?
Lemon Tree.
Oh, yeah, Lemon Tree and M's. 6 new stores. So to the idea of this being this broke down, non-functioning downtown seems to be a lark. I also have to tell you that we've had plenty of conversations, Bob. Rich Rowe was willing to do this project by himself. It was made more attractive as a product of this facade grant. The same with 115, 117. Those people had already committed to the idea that they were going to restore those buildings. And if I'm not mistaken, Andrea Phillips wanted to end up putting the trim along the top of her building because she didn't want to end up seeming less illustrious than what the Grand Trunk and the Wickham building next door are looking like. So the idea that we're not getting people that have a willingness to pull their own wallets out to improve their own properties is a lark. And I'm not saying that I'm against the idea of trying to incent them to do that. It's just the idea of this being the $5,000 a pop. I think we need to find a figure that is more practical and reasonable. And in the early on discussions that we had had for this very conversation, I was asking if there's budget money to be able to pull this off without alleviating any of the obligations that we already have with roads, parks, whatever it might be that's on our ordinary platter. And I was assured that that was the case, and that doesn't seem to be the case any longer without getting into general fund. So those are the reasons why my tenor on this whole discussion has become one that I think needs to be more realistic. So thank you.
Go ahead, Bob.
I just wanted, just for the record, to note that it was part of their planning process that they were aware of the funds. They weren't finished with any plans and then heard about the facade grant. I mean, we talked about them from day one with their facade grants. It possibly could be very well that they would proceed, but they were aware and seemed to be excited about the prospect. Possibly they would proceed without the money.
All right, if there are no other comments, I will make my one comment, and that's that when a department head comes before us and says he needs a postponement to get the papers right, to get the legalities right, I'm going to vote for that every time. Now, as to the matter of postponement, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Matter passes. Thank you.
Thanks,
We're
Bob.
postponed on that till second meeting in April.
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
Number 4, consider naming policy for parks and recreations and city-owned and operated facilities. Lynn?
Okay, this item was postponed from the last meeting. I wanted the Parks and Rec Commission members to be here to answer your questions. They did not have members available for this evening, so I'm asking to postpone it again to a non-definite date so that I can make sure that we have the Parks and Rec Commission available.
All right, I need a motion then to postpone to an indefinite date.
I'll make that motion.
Glenn's motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mary?
Discussion,
Yes?
point of order.
Yes. What's your point of order?
Requesting a parliamentarian opinion on whether postponing to an indefinite time kills the motion.
I don't think that it does.
Postponement to an indefinite time.
Removes the subject for the session, opens the main question to debate, takes precedence only on the main question, does not yield to amendments, is not subject to subsidiary motions. So you have an opportunity to propose a motion to postpone to a date indefinite or a motion to table.
I would prefer a motion to table.
I make that motion.
Glenn makes the motion to table. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion
Mary
to table.
seconds that.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on a motion to table? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
1 no. New business. Consider approval of a dispatch lockup service agreement with the city of Novi. Chief?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and Council, it seems like every 3 years, whether we need it or not, Novi sees a need to raise the rates on our dispatch lockup contract. The rate increases have historically been in the 2 to 3% per year range, with coincided in the past with Novi's stated cost increases and contractual obligations. This time in discussions with Public Safety Director Malloy, he says due to both contractual obligations, labor cost, and he specifically cited cost of equipment, Novi feels a need to have a 5% increase per per year. The numbers are before council for 17-18. The contract for both police and fire would be $122,090. For 18-19, $128,194. And for 19-20, $134,604. All of those numbers are far cheaper than we could possibly run a dispatch alone, not even counting the lockup services that we receive on our own.
And you're still recommending that we go through with approve this contract?
I am
Still
most
service?
definitely recommending and requesting that council approve and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the new 3-year agreement with the city of Novi.
Okay, thank you. Any comments?
I'll make the motion to approve the 3-year agreement as presented with the city of Novi to provide dispatch and lockup services for the South Lyon Police and Fire Department.
Second.
Motion by Rizzi, seconded by Kurzweil. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion passes. Number 2, consider approval of emergency expenditure for the fire department radio repeater at the water tower, North Mill Street, due to critical failure following the March 8th power outage. Chief.
Hey, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Following the March 8th high wind event and subsequent power outage, we started experiencing transmission reception issues with our minuter pagers. The way the system works is there's a 911 center in Novi that we just renewed. They have a transmitter at the Novi Public Safety Center at 10 Mile and Taft, and then kicks the signal to our water tower that's then repeated to open up fire pagers for both the city of South Lyon and Lyon Township. The system, we noticed a failure. We have backup systems in place. We also have a redundant system. There were no missed dispatches, no consequence from the repeater failure. We have a service contract with Synergy Energy based out of Troy, Michigan. It's a very niche, specialized radio programming company, and we've had the contract with them for 6 years now. Service technician came out. At the time, the repeater was in a total state of failure, so we were relying on our backup systems. Contacted the city manager, advised her of the position, also contacted Chief Engineering Tech from Lyon Township. The fortunate thing here is this is a shared agreement that's been in place since 2009, so we split the maintenance on this. Normally, I would have liked to have come before you, try to receive some potentially multiple bids on this. In doing my own research on this, the numbers that Synergy gave us were within industry norms for this type of repeater equipment. The system is back up and functional. In fact, it came fully back up online today. So the fortunate with this, the bill for the $16,532, if approved by council, would then hopefully it will go before Lyon Township at their next meeting for them to approve the 50% of that per our current joint user agreement with them. So I realize it doesn't take the total sting, but it takes half the sting. So
I'll make the motion that we approve the quote for Synergy Wireless to replace the VHF repeater with expected $8,266 reimbursement from Lyon Township.
I was just going to, hold on just a moment. I want to ask Tim if we need to waive bidding.
Yes.
That would be my point.
Absolutely.
Motion to waive the formal bid process.
Okay, I'll make that motion first to waive the bid.
Withdraw your motion, start over.
Withdraw your original motion,
Yeah,
please.
withdraw it. I make the motion, we waive the bid process due to special circumstances.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion Glenn and second Mary. Any discussion on waiving the bidding process? All those in favor?
I have a discussion.
Yes, go ahead.
So it's discussion, comment/comment. I just want to say that when we have these instances, Bob, you get them too when the water mains break, and we have these natural disasters. I really think the department heads do a good job of addressing it, and actually in a cost-effective way. So I appreciate that. But what I wanted to point out was These are the reasons why, people think it's nitpicking, but these are the reasons why I'm always questioning, or other members of council are questioning the attorney invoices, or if it's $3,000 on solar panel, RFP, paperwork. I mean, because you can't account for this stuff. So we need to look out for every nickel and dime everywhere so we can have some funds to try and cover this stuff. So if that makes some people upset, me questioning all the time, that's fine, but good job, guys. Thank you for taking care of this, Chief. Thank you.
Question?
Yes.
How is this being paid for? I looked at your budget. I spent some time over the weekend, Chief, going through the budget, and just want to know, do you have some place in the budget? I found several areas, just wanted to ask you about. Vehicle maintenance, is it able to come out of that area in the vehicle maintenance?
We are currently over vehicle maintenance for the year.
Really? I haven't seen an amendment to the budget on that fact, okay. 931, building maintenance, air compressor, piping, replace interior office carpeting for 2, upgrade exterior lights, replace countertop in the report room.
Yep.
Have those been done, or can we shift and move these to the next budget cycle and take some of the money out of there?
Those, so I believe you're referring to the
Building
current
maintenance.
FY16 project
Yeah.
statements. Those projects have been done.
Okay,
So I would have to go to the city manager to determine where we're going to shuffle. I think that there definitely will require some budget amendments to account for this.
where's the money coming from, Lynn?
The money will probably be coming out of administration for this, transferring into the fire budget.
Not from the general fund?
Administration is general fund. Administration is everything at City Hall, economic development, our day-to-day operations. It's the 101-200 fund.
101 through 200, okay.
Yeah.
And where's that going to short you?
I am hopefully going to take little bits out of here and there, but right now the primary is out of utilities because we haven't spent as much on utilities as anticipated.
Hasn't been as cold.
Right.
So you don't have to dip into,
It is my intention not to dip into general fund balance.
into the fund balance?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure this is not a fund balance deduction. Okay,
All right?
thank you.
Now, I've lost track. Are we on the waiver or are we?
Waiver.
Waiver.
Okay, on the waiver. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no.
Okay, I make a
That
motion.
passes. Go ahead, Glenn.
Okay, I make a motion, we approve the quote with Synergy Wireless for the repeater.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, Glenn and Mary. Any discussion on
I see the pattern tonight.
that motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. That motion passes.
Thank you, council.
Thank you. Now
Yeah,
we have
thanks
a
for staying on
discussion
top of that,
on
Mike.
Sidewalks.
This was an item that Councilwoman Kurzweil asked to be placed on the agenda.
That's yours, Bob?
I didn't put it on there.
Oh,
Oh, I did.
go ahead. You had a question on it?
This is just for discussion. This is all this is. This is just discussion. And clarification. Is that it was my understanding last year that we approved $20,000 to go into a line item for sidewalks. And that money was to be used for the residents in the city that may have bad sidewalks, that may want to repair them, and the program was a 50-50 match. Okay. And the 50-50 match was, I believe, the city was to take 125, and then the homeowner paid another 125. And we're talking about just a basic sidewalk, a flag. Am I correct so far? I mean,
5 by 5 square.
Yeah.
It's called a flag.
a flag. So I recall looking on the revenue statement and seeing the payment of the sidewalks, and I knew the numbers weren't right. I didn't have my facts in front of me, and I wanted to make sure that I understood how this program worked. And I think we have to put in perspective that every time we have a new program, that sometimes things may not go right. I don't want to say right, I just think sometimes, you got to work out all the details. And sometimes all the details don't get worked out. or we forget about certain things. So I asked for an accounting, and that's what you have with you, is the accounting that was included in the packet. Now, if you take the $20,000 that we allotted for the sidewalk repair, divide it by 125, which is the city's contribution, you come up with 160. So that's 160 sidewalks that could have been done. But when I looked at the revenue side, which is why I asked the question, I wanted to know the revenue side of this program and how the city was accounting for this program. So I now get the revenue, and the revenue side of this program shows that $1,320 was paid to the city by homeowners, and there were 10 sidewalks that were done out of that money, because that's what that is. That represents 10 sidewalks.
Five homes.
1, 2, 3, yeah. So it comes out to 10 sidewalks. But when I asked you, Lynn, at a meeting, you said that the money in the sidewalk was already used up.
That is because that's what I had been informed by Bob. Until we actually did the accounting, we did not realize how underutilized the program was this year.
So,
Been very underutilized. But remember, last year was the first year of that, Maggie.
okay, so where is $18,860? That's sitting somewhere in a budget?
It's sitting in 101,440,974, which is land improvements under the Department of Public Works.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get a feel. So this potentially, if it's, I'm just throwing this out for discussion, that's all I'm doing, just for discussion, is that if there's an underutilization, either because people didn't know about it or people don't need it, or maybe the sidewalks aren't as bad as we thought.
They're bad.
Okay, if they're bad, then we need to get the word out. And at least I know that for this budgeting season, I don't necessarily have to put as much money into the sidewalk because there's already $18,680 sitting in that budget line.
No.
No, that's
No.
not true.
Okay, then correct me.
The money doesn't roll over from year to
Right.
year.
It
This is
doesn't roll
cash
over.
basis accounting. Anything, you have a fund balance for the general
Right.
fund, but each individual fund zeroes out at the end of the budget year.
Or if you don't spend it, it's my
It
understanding, it
zeroes
rolls
out.
into
The general fund.
the
It-
general fund balance.
It's revenue that came in, but only if you got it. We said we were gonna spend 20. We also budgeted to get 20,000 in revenue to match it from the residents. So while this 20,000 that is budgeted as an expenditure, that is part of the overall general fund revenues, not including the 20,000 in residential contribution.
Okay.
So it's not an extra $18,000. It's just 18,000 that hasn't gotten spent that goes to the bottom line of the fund balance.
So that's where it's gonna go if it doesn't get used on sidewalks.
Correct.
Unless you amend the budget.
Unless we amend the budget and move it elsewhere.
And move it elsewhere, like to pay a bill.
Correct.
Okay,
And it'll be redistributed in the new fiscal year.
okay, so I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page, because when I read this, I knew this was not right.
Yeah, but let me just say, we wanted to do more sidewalks. And when we knocked down people's doors, or they called us over, and we stood out in front of their homes with them and said, you know, and we're extremely, we'll do this one and this one because it's caused from a city tree, but the next three flags are you. Many residents chose not to take a bite of that apple, if you will. So we didn't do it. But we would still go in and repair any tree damage, a city tree damage to a sidewalk. And that's through Hidden Creek, Whipple Street, Liberty Street, you name it. And we still do a lot of cement work, but we didn't get as many takers. But remember, it only got instilled July 1 of last year, too. So.
Yeah, I'm just trying to clarify the accounting side of it, because I'm a budget watcher, so, I'm just sort of doing that. And I do want to thank Lori Mosher. She did a fabulous job on providing and getting me the information, so she deserves a round of applause for that one.
And you can see how much concrete was used there. I mean, we used a lot of concrete.
Well, this is what confused me, now that you brought that up. What confused me was you had 10 sidewalks But I thought that the city was making their own concrete.
Oh, no.
Okay, Hornet was doing it? Okay, okay. All right.
But I will build a concrete plant if you would like.
No,
It's not in the budget.
it's not in the budget.
Along with your bull
It would be
floats and
allowed,
stuff,
you
yeah.
know, and,
Okay, thank you for that explanation, Bob.
All
I
right,
have
go
a-
ahead,
yep.
Joe.
So maybe this went completely over my head, but I need to just clarify as well. So that the invoices were $4,585.25, and we are reimbursed $1,320.
Not all that was just for sidewalks, Joe.
Okay.
Some of that was other concrete that we used, anything from catch basins to approaches in people's streets that manholes have moved and cracked people's driveway approaches. We do a lot of repair, even sidewalks that was damaged by city trees.
Okay. So we spent on these houses $1,320, we got $1,320 back.
Yes.
Okay. And then just the other clarification was, I thought I heard that there was 10 houses done, or?
10 flags.
10 flags, oh, 10
Yeah.
flags with 5 houses. Okay, 2 each. Okay, that makes sense. And then my next question is, I thought I saw my subdivision was doing a house, actually replacing their sidewalk. I don't know if it was through the city or not. It was actually, I wrote down,
Recently,
yeah.
we're not doing any concrete this time of
No,
year.
not recent. When I say recently, I mean my term of recently is maybe different. It was, last fall, it was Grayfield. I wrote down the address. But do you recall doing anything in Oak Creek Village? Because I didn't see that on the list here. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe Lori can check that for me,
I
if you don't
know
mind.
specifically the big streets.
Okay.
Okay. Was it an approach or was it a sidewalk?
Sidewalk on a corner of the house.
So then chances are we repaired it if there was a tree associated with it
No.
or something like that.
I didn't see anything down. Just curious if we got the reimbursement or not, so. Okay.
Let's have a little one.
It was 549 Grayfield, actually.
Okay, I'll look into that.
Thank you.
Okay, some of this Hornet concrete could have been just sidewalks that are on city property as well, correct? Yeah, so, okay, the only other comment I wanted to make, you've only got one missing address, but I would really love you guys to be absolutely certain you get addresses for every piece of property that we're doing this program with.
Actually, in fact, we even took pictures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what we should be doing, so, thank you.
Anyone else? Now, I have one comment that I want to check with you, Lynn.
Sure.
If we didn't use all the money on the expenditure side that was allocated, by the same token, then we won't meet the revenue expectations
Correct.
on that same thing. So, that's where some of the balance is going to be. If we didn't
Yes.
spend the money, we're not going to get the reimbursement either. All right, with that, we'll move on. And that's discussion and consideration to set the date for the city manager's 2017 review and designate 2 council members to meet with city manager to identify goals, performance measures, and evaluation form to be used.
This has been brought up at a couple of meetings so far this year. We need to set a date for my review, and as there has been a lack of consistency with the form and the goals and things like that, I think it would be best if the council would appoint 2 people to meet with me so that we can set down all the goals that I am being evaluated on, the performance measures, and exactly what form we're using, so everybody's on the same page.
Makes sense? Maggie, you asked to have this on the agenda for discussion. Do you have a date that you have in mind?
Well, I mean, Lynn, you had talked about October. I don't
My
know-
last review was in October, and
I don't know if you still want to do October or not.
October is fine.
Okay, so let's pick the first meeting in October. We'll be, that's what I would do. I would deal with it now and pick the date so that there's no ambiguity. My only concern is making sure you have enough time, because there's going to be goals coming out.
Right.
And to give you enough time to sort of fulfill those goals or whatever, and I sure didn't want it to be 60 days, because I don't think that's fair to you.
I
under
appreciate that.
any circumstances. So I would be willing, if council wants, I would be willing to work on it. I've got a little bit of an employment background myself, and I wouldn't mind working with Lynn. I've worked with Lynn in the past quite well. Blues, Booze, and Brats comes to my attention. And work with you on things that are amicable to you.
Okay.
Comment as well.
Go ahead, Joe.
So, yeah, personally, I wouldn't mind either, or, I guess my only comment would be that if we look at 2015, there was 4 people currently on council who are running for election, or 5, and 4 of them lost. So, with an election coming up, I think it only makes sense to have people who are not up, have their terms this year, maybe sit on this thing. So that leaves myself, Mary, and Maggie. So if Mary wants to sit on it, I have no problem, or else you want me to, I don't have an issue as well.
I'll start it. That's fine.
Does the council have any problem with me appointing 2 members?
No, but I'd like to make a recommendation that the recommendations come back to council so that we can weigh in on what the goals and things are prior to them being approved.
Everyone amenable to that?
Absolutely.
Maggie?
Yeah, I mean, that only makes sense. You got to make these decisions in an open meeting. So all we are is whoever serves on that committee is just an advisory committee anyway, it's just to pull materials together. The final decision is going to be for council as to what the goals are. I think it would be very helpful if that's the case to move this along. I'm a little bit of a planner. I don't like a lot of loose ends. So I think maybe if people would, in the next week or so, email 2 or 3 goals that you would like Lynn to achieve, email them to her so that they're available to us when we meet, and put them in your priority. I think each member of council should have an opportunity for a goal. I don't think any person on council should be excluded. So if you have a particular issue and you want to have it addressed, then make that your priority. Lynn, of course, will have her opportunity for her input and her requirement for goals. Hopefully this process, I would hope, as I'm sort of outlining it in my head, is sort of have this done in about 30 days so she knows what her goals are, and council has an opportunity to discuss them and approve the form for her evaluation.
Any other comments? All right, without objection, I'll ask Maggie and Mary to meet with Lynn to get the process underway. Moving on, discussion downtown. Bob, got anything for us?
Well, as always, if there are any questions, I have an additional item, but if there are any questions on the report which I submitted. All right, I have an item which is apparently making its way through the community, so I thought I needed to get it to you. And
I got it under my door.
actually, there's a couple things. Here are 5 copies.
Okay, thanks. I have one of these already.
I think I do too.
A subject that came up last fall, which we're pursuing, relates to the new master plan in some ways. I know there was comment last week by members of the public, and so I wanted to, for the record, let you know where we're at. I put together a report on the current Veterans Memorial, sometimes affectionately known as The Rock.
Thank you.
And I took it upon myself, after I looked at the new master plan, I felt concerned about the memorial because of the pressure from new development and what that would do to the memorial. I note in my report that I drive by the War Dog Memorial every day. And I thought that the veterans, and no disrespect to the War Dog Memorial, which is fantastic, but I thought that the veterans deserve something at least of equal caliber, the veterans of South Lyon. So to head off any future development in the master plan and to create a better situation for the veterans here, I took it upon myself to have some quiet discussions with the veterans first, since it's their monument. I contacted Don Beagle, who I knew was involved with the Shermatero Memorial at the high school. And because of his involvement with that, I asked Don, and Don agreed, Don Beagle, to provide any services free of charge. And so then he and I went and discussed with the veterans last October. And we were surprised that they were excited. And I mentioned this to Harvey as well in that time frame. And Harvey gave me a contact for the VFW. Harvey being a veteran, and he didn't think it was too off the wall. So, but more importantly, we talked to the veterans at the VFW. And they were very excited. They were very positive. In fact, they were just their basic board, or whatever you call the board of a VFW. I don't know, there's a term for that. Their command structure or something. Every one of them was very positive at that meeting in October. They did say that they wanted to take it to their full membership. And of course, during our presentation, we said that the VFW was just one of several required approvals. We thought certainly we start with the veterans, but also certainly the Parks and Recreation, Historical Society, certainly the Planning Commission, and then finally the City Council. So we made it clear that all those approvals would be necessary before anything were to occur. So there was an item that was requested, and through the holidays, it became difficult. We came up with the concept plan. We did not have the concept plan in October. We just got that about a week ago. And so we are back. I'm going to schedule back with the veterans and show them that concept plan that they requested.
Didn't you have an aerial concept as well?
We have a site plan
Yeah,
that I will furnish to council. Basically, at that view is at McCaddy Park near the current Blue Star Memorial. It is as far north as possible, and the design is open so that it does not affect the views of the village. And it's very close to Pontiac Trail, so that any future development of the park is very minimally impacted. So we're excited. The veterans, if they see fit to approve this, we'll carry it forward. If they are not happy, then it dies.
How far from parking? My only concern is some of those guys are getting kind of tired, you know. So if they come over to this for one of their ceremonies, will there be some way to shuttle them or something? I mean, this sidewalk is going to be tied back to the parking lot?
We talked about that in a site plan as a second phase, some additional parking there.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, even if there's a nice way to be able to traverse them from the parking that exists.
It includes sidewalk, barrier-free sidewalk.
Yeah, great.
A cost estimate of approximately $30,000, which the veterans felt they could raise along with people that were involved in the Shermatero. Don Beagle has talked to them. So the funds would be raised privately, 100%.
Question. Very cool.
Go ahead.
So my comment is, I think that when people maybe first read things, they don't have all the story in the background. So obviously, when I heard of this, I didn't know what you stated about the veterans have given all their, or at least part of them have given their sign off. So my gut is to always go side with the veterans and what they want, and this looks like a very beautiful display. My question is, when it comes time for, I think some of the concern that I heard was the actual rock itself was from maybe people who've had it for years. I mean, let me just throw it out there. Is it possible to keep the rock where it is and then have this completely separate, or do you have to necessarily move the rock? Was that been even discussed?
Well, the veterans, their board, Harvey, what's the name of that board?
It's the VFW membership board. I don't know what they're
they felt it was important that the rock be part of whatever new monument were to take place.
Okay.
And so that the site plan and the discussion was to relocate the rock as well as all of the bricks for donations and open up the plaza for a larger plaza with more donations. But they were in favor of moving the rock to the new location.
So, yeah, personally, I'm going to let the veterans run with whatever course they do when it comes to us. I'll look at it, and yeah, I mean, that was my only clarification was maybe it's possible to keep. You can never have too many veteran memorials. You know, maybe have the old one and create something new. But you guys sounds like you have a handle on it. So thank you.
Let me just make one point, clarification if I can. The Rock has been there for a long time, as has the VFW, and all of those events predate the organization of American Legion post in this town. That was only about a 10, maybe 12 year ago startup for the Legion. So that's why the VFW is the primary focus, veterans group focus on this.
So I wanted to get out front of that with City Council to kind of give you a heads up, rather than wait at the end of the process and wonder what the heck is going on. So, also, there's an item that the Downtown Development Authority had its first ever annual board retreat for goals and objectives. And at that retreat on February 16th, they approved of having an annual, or not an annual, a monthly update for business and property owners on the last Thursday of every month. Flyers have gone out to all of the businesses in the DDA so that all the business owners as well as the property owners in the DDA will come at 8:30 to 9:30. The first one is at 101 South Lafayette, the Lafayette Corner Cafe, this Thursday. And it's something we're going to do every month from here on out, just as kind of a face-to-face, an additional method of communication. So, and there's always going to be a door prize, and we're going to start religiously at 8:30, end religiously at 9:30, so people can get to their businesses. And the South Lyon Hotel donated the first dinner for two gift certificates, and so we're going to have different business kind of induce people to show up. So that's the plan.
All right. I have a question for downtown. So what I'll affectionately, sadly call as Lake Kaplan has reared its ugly head. I mean, it's full, and I know Dr. Kaplan is not happy about this. I know he spoke, what was it? When we first were elected, I think, re-elected. Yeah, it was.
What is this?
So his I'm sorry, let me give you some point of reference. So Dr. Kaplan, he has a shallow well. It collects water.
It's the
basically.
chiropractor up by the railroad track.
Yep, and he collects water,
yeah,
and
sure.
the debate was, well, that's really Oakland County's responsibility, and then, he's come to us for help, and then he went to Oakland County, and I see he's been talking about it some more because it's come back. And when we discussed this before you came, there were some vocal members on council who said, well, as a city government, we really need to be more involved, and I think John himself, I don't want to speak for him, but he did agree that as a city, we should be leveraging and pushing from our side to get some results from Oakland County. So since then, it hasn't been resolved, and it's been over a year, maybe a year and a half.
Oakland County did do some work there, Joe.
Okay.
They did a significant amount of work there.
Yeah, they put a catch basin in with a dry well. That storm doesn't attach anything, but they dropped a catch basin in on that green spot between the two driveways.
Well, he's still not happy, so I don't know what the issue is. I mean,
There's still a huge pool over there.
Well, there is.
So, yeah, I mean, is there anything else we can do to get him back out here? I mean, I know we did the initial, but
I will call the maintenance superintendent of our COC and have them come out and take a look at it. I discussed this earlier this afternoon with a member of council.
His north approach is fine. It's the south.
It's the south side.
Yeah.
I just want to see it resolved. I
And
don't care how.
was it the south side that was remediated, or was it just the north side?
Neither one was.
Well, you said they put a catch basin.
Between the two of them.
It's between the
Oh,
two.
it's
Yeah,
between.
it's between the two, yeah.
They did it between the two approaches to his business.
So if you're going to call him, that answers my question. Thank you. I really think we should be utilizing Phil as well, and just in general, when we can. I mean, as our county commissioner, to reach out when we can.
Okay. Bob, you got anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's do the manager's report.
Manager's report's real short and sweet. The budget will be to the council no later than Monday, so we need to set a date for the budget workshop.
Questions from my side?
Yeah.
Representative Waddell. Bob, well, I'm sorry. It relates to Bob and City Manager. Bob, we talked about putting money in the budget for downtown improvement. Is that going to be included?
For additional items?
Yeah.
For the future? You asked for an itemized list of things that could be done in the future downtown?
Basically, my message was ask for the moon, and if you get the stars, great. So if there's anything you're looking for.
Right now, I wouldn't expect to get the moon, the stars, or a rock based on the condition of the current budget if we're not spending any of fund balance.
I could put together a list, which I see as a wish list.
Yeah.
And however that may occur, whenever that may occur. But certainly, yes, I plan to do that.
See, I want to have options in front of me. So even if it's, okay, there's not money for this, if we need to look at the budget as a whole. Okay, so we talked about this before. If that's your wish, we won't be able to make that determination until we see it. So
you're inviting Bob to the budget session?
if he wants to be
Did
there.
I get that right? Okay.
If he wants to be there, it's up to
Yeah,
him.
Bob.
I like the idea of a list.
I don't want to invite myself to the budget sessions. I'll do whatever I'm directed to
Run
do.
away.
I believe that it's rather obvious that such a wish list, I mean, I think we've got an obvious priority, which is the facade program. And I will work with whatever the decision of council is, but I think the list would be a bit absurd to bring into the budget meeting. I think overall, for future planning, because I've worked with capital improvements planning, so I think it's probably a 5-year and a 10-year outlook on some of the things I would advocate, and I would advocate it with tax increment finance revenues so that the DDA would be in charge of those downtown issues. For economic development issues outside of the DDA, certainly. But I would say that, because we have a very tiny DDA, but I'm confident with the new master plan and selling that master plan every day, if not 24/7, 365, so that there will be significant increased revenues, I would say in a 2 to 5 year time range. So I would like to put the wish list outside of anything else into a 2+ year time frame so that the tax increment finance can pay for those. And that's generally through capital improvements, and most of the other DDAs done that way. But I will definitely provide that list as soon as possible.
You can send it. If you don't want it to show up, we have it in front of us.
No, but
Oh,
everybody.
I'll come as whoever I'm directed by the city manager. I'll be there or whatever.
Known to Lynn, right?
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
she brings it all to the planning, or the planning.
The council.
Sure. I just wanted to be fair with the other department heads here that
Sure, Bob.
I'd like to see your projected list, though, of
Sure.
goals, so.
Well, I'm working with Oakland County Equalization to, we had a little taste of it when we saw revenue projection on a sample project when we get into a discussion of tax abatement. So I'm very confident that within that 3 to 5 year range, that we're going to have projects that are going to add significantly to the tax increment finance revenue. And then it'll be more than a wish list. It'll be a
Good. All right.
good list.
Let's get back to the manager's report.
So my next question was for the manager as well, and that's regarding, I was going to ask, you went to a conference. Did you get anything out of the conference that you want to share with us? I'm surprised you didn't have any comments.
I sent you my conference report.
I know, but any nuggets you want to share for the public as well? You know you're going to talk about MERS. You said you were going to have some answers on that.
I am working on the MERS. Things are not progressing as well as I had hoped. I had a phone conversation with a company that was more interested in helping us with our OPEB versus our MERS liability, OPEB being a retirement. We only have about $500,000 in OPEB liability, so the idea of financing a bond for that when we have the MERS liability is not reasonable because we need to get MERS paid off before we put the heavy emphasis on OPEB. We still need to pay them both down. I'm still looking for ways to alternate or advocate and make changes to our existing MERS that will reduce our OPEB liability, and I'm hoping to find an outside actuary that can verify what MERS has put together. As if you look back at our MERS valuations, they significantly change about every 2 years, which is when they do their actuarial analyses for each community on a new investment schedule. The most recent one almost doubled our OPEB liability, or our MERS liability, so I'm continuing to work on that. But right now, the last 2-3 weeks, other than being ill, the budget has been the primary focus, and we've got to get that done. I'm trying to find a way to do that without tapping into any of the fund balances.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on your report?
Just setting the date for the workshop.
All right, let's talk about the dates of the workshop, and then Maggie, you'll be question first. Do you have a date in mind?
My question for the council is, do they want a Saturday day or do we want a night?
We did a Saturday last time, didn't we?
We have done a Saturday last time, yes.
What's your pleasure? Anyone?
I would prefer a night. Wedding season, lots of weddings on Saturdays.
Wednesday, nights?
Nights, yep. That's just my preference, but I'll work around council.
I would only ask that you stay away from Good Friday weekend.
Yeah, we won't be doing it on Easter weekend. If we do it on a night, if we don't do a Monday, we can do it in here. If we do a Monday that's not a council meeting, we would have to meet somewhere else because the school board meets in here. Otherwise, my evenings, I've got Parks and Rec on the second Wednesday, but I could miss that for the council workshop. Tuesdays, Thursdays, whatever the council as a general whole has the best evening.
Want to do Wednesday? That may work. Unless you really, is there anything, I don't want to take you away from Parks and Rec if they need you there, but.
We can do Wednesday. That's just one Wednesday. That's the second Wednesday. So we could do, I wouldn't recommend doing it next Wednesday because you guys won't have had the budget long enough to really digest it. We could do it the 19th of April.
When will we get advanced copies of the proposed budget?
If it's not out Friday, you'll have it on Monday.
Okay. So you're looking at the 19th?
Yes.
It's fine with me.
What say you folks?
I'm fine with that. Does Cable Commission meet on that day?
They meet the same day as the Parks and Rec.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, should we pencil that in?
Okay, what time? Do we want to
6:30.
do 6:30?
What time did you say?
6:30.
6:30, that sounds good. All right, 6:30, Wednesday, April 19th. And that's here at City Hall.
Yes,
All right, are you done?
I'm done.
All right, let's do council comments. Glenn?
I had a
let's-
couple questions to ask.
Oh,
Lynn.
okay, I'm sorry. You did ask for that.
Just two questions real quick, Lynn. Do we have a disaster plan?
Yes, we do.
What is it?
It's the city's emergency plan. It was put together between the police, the fire, and Oakland County. I can loan you the copy out of my office, or I can have a copy of the binder made for you.
We got one at the water plant, too.
Where do people go if they had to go to a building? I'm just curious.
We do not currently have warming shelters or emergency shelters of that nature in place.
Is that considered out of the norm?
No, it's not, but I have been contacted by one of the local churches asking about becoming a warming center. And so I'm going to be looking into what requirements there are and working with them.
It would be covered with insurance?
Well, that's why I've got to figure out what the details are.
Would they be paid for their services?
Again, I've got to figure those details out.
All right, I was just curious. Because I don't think it would be fair to have a warming shelter or a disaster shelter area and ask a church who survives on its operating costs through donations
Right.
to house a couple hundred people, and
I agree.
most of these churches have kitchens, so they probably would tap into food and everything, so I would hope there'd be something there. The other thing is I wanted to ask you about the, the school resource officer contract. We saw earlier this evening that back in February, the city attorney was working on revising changes, I don't know, researching, whatever, back in February. And there was a discussion at one of the meetings. I had a copy of the contract because I printed it off of their website. I happened to be talking to a couple of individuals who were not in favor of this resource officer, and they conveyed to me that the school board has already approved this contract. They approved it at their last meeting.
They have, but I have also had conversations with Melissa Baker about the fact that the city is not in agreement with all of the language, nor do we know for certain that we're going to have the financial resources to do this based on the contract that they have approved.
It just seems a little odd that school board has approved a contract that nobody on this council has seen but me. That's only because I went to the website and they approved a contract where changes and revisions were made to it. Kind of reminds me of Nancy Pelosi. You got to read it, got to pass it before we read it. So that was my thinking.
Well, as
School board passed something, and I guess they passed it, and I just have to wait until it gets over here to see what they passed.
if it gets over here, based on the current format, I would not recommend that contract to this council.
But I mean, you just see how weird it.
Yes, I understand.
So the school board passes a contract made with the city of South Lyon, in which we don't know what it says. We don't know its terms and conditions. Did the city attorney's changes get over to school, to the school?
The district took it to their board before they looked at the city's revisions.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. All right, now we're ready for council comments. I'm going to start with Glenn, please.
Kind of on the same theme, I talked with Lynn earlier about this, but of the Kaplan property, principally 10 Mile, but I'm sure there's places on Pontiac Trail as well where storm sewers for RCOC are just holding water. So they haven't done any jetting or any kind of maintenance PM on their.
They don't have no jetters. There's 2 in the entire county.
Yeah, well, have them send one over, you know, I mean, geez. Yeah, I went out there, I've got a, storm in front of my house, so I grabbed a rake thinking that there must be leaves covering the grate or something. There's nothing there, it's just a pool, so. Yeah, if we can reach out to them and at least make the request, I'd appreciate it. That's all I had, thanks.
All right, thanks. Mary?
I have a couple things. The first thing I wanted to mention was I completely understand where the Glen Kibble conflict of interest does not sit well with residents or members on council. And I understand that. I see both sides of the issue. And I am going to put my money where my mouth is, Councilman Rizzi. And Lynn, is it possible to have it on the next as an agenda item for the next meeting to motion for a suspension is essentially what I was asking for originally. That was not my way of doing nothing. That was something that I had originally stated, and I didn't have much favor when I stated it the first time. So, challenge accepted.
Okay.
Secondly, I also wanted to say that I think it's incredibly disappointing that there is such a divide on council. And I think that we are wasting so much precious time that we could be doing things to propel the city forward, and instead, we're kind of just slowly progressing. So, again, my disappointment is with us. I think we, myself included, we all need to recognize our actions, what we're saying to each other, and just treat each other with respect. And that's been the name of the game since day one. But again, myself included, we're not adhering by that. It's easier said than done, I suppose. The third thing I wanted to say was that I probably will receive a lot of backlash on Facebook. But for those of you who are listening that also have Facebook, I have Facebook. I use it all the time. I think it's a fantastic tool. I think it's incredibly resourceful. However, I think that when you're reading comments on Facebook, please do your due diligence. Do not take for face value what you see on Facebook, because half the time it's only one side of the story. But when you are reading on Facebook, again, take it with a grain of salt. Do your own due diligence as residents of South Lyon. And watch the meetings if you have the ability to. If you work, try to watch them or read the minutes, or even the Herald. The Herald does an excellent job portraying what's actually happening. So this way, at least you have some type of objectivity and you know what's going on from both sides. So that was basically what I want to say about Facebook. But then the last thing I wanted to say on a happier note would be, we have so many fantastic events going on in South Lyon, especially with the Cultural Arts Commission. We have the Easter egg coming up. So be sure to mark your calendars and get out there, because there's a lot of great events. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you. Joe?
Okay, Bob, I forgot to ask you during your report, we discussed I think it was a month ago, about Uber. And I think people are very excited to have, I heard there's an Uber driver, and you said you were going to look into it to see if there's any legalities from a city side, licensing, that sort of thing. My understanding is that people sign up and just have at it, so.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I was busy. I have a sticky note on my desk. I haven't followed through. I was going to get in touch with Tim, and I have not done it yet. I intend to.
Okay, or maybe you can do it yourself. You don't necessarily have to go to Tim. There's other people that we don't need to bill hours for it. It's not
I
that
actually have been looking into that. I've had a couple of businesses contact me about it. There is some contact that you have to have with the Uber Corporation to get your city listed as a city. So I'm trying to work on that, and short of Uber, there's also Lyft, which is another company. So trying to get one or both as an addition to our public transportation system.
Is that something we could add to the agenda? I mean, when you're ready? I mean, ideally, I'd like to have, the next meeting should give you enough time to do some research and at least maybe put something before us. That would be one of my goals. If I'm going to write a goal for you, that's going to be one of them. Because we have so many seniors and everybody who wants to use it.
Ideally, if there is a contract, obviously it would come before council, depending upon what exactly they need, whether we have requirements in our code for taxi ordinances, things like that. Those are all information that I can provide the council at the next meeting, but it may not be something that's an actionable item.
Okay. Yeah, and that's fine. I don't want to have a 10-hour research project where we build $150 an hour. If you can do it yourself and give us some information.
That's what I've been doing thus far.
Okay. Next question is actually for, I'm thinking, when I go through these comments, I'm trying to think modernized. Uber, Lyft. Next is, you see Craigslist and, you guys done?
No, we're not.
Go ahead, continue.
Okay. That, for the TV audience, this usually happens every meeting. People have their sidebars and interrupt. That's okay.
It's embarrassing.
So as I was saying, I'm trying to think modernized, and Uber, Lyft, Craigslist, Southline Swap. I don't know, they're up to 10,000 members now. One of the things that I've seen other communities do, and I have heard a lot of interest for, is perhaps creating some sort of a safe zone for people to have their online trades. I know City of Novi does it, where they have cameras and people can do their trades. Chief, is that something has ever crossed your desk or you've even heard of before?
Well, I'm certainly familiar with Novi's program, where they already have an existing and extensive exterior camera system, and they have acres, literally, of parking available at their police station, which is adjacent to their civic center. We would not have at our location the benefit of either of those without a capital expenditure for additional cameras, and then that still wouldn't give us additional parking spaces, which you would have to have dedicated to that safe transfer zone area. But yes, I am aware of it.
Okay, so it's more or less a luxury, not a need. I guess, okay, that's one of my wish lists, but if there's not money for it, I'll let it go at this time. Next, I wish John was here. Actually, I wanted to say, Maggie, I got your letter in the packet, and it's actually in response to John. Apparently, and I brought this up last meeting, apparently Mayor Galis wrote a letter to the city employees apologizing for council, and it kind of perked my interest because I saw it in the minutes, and because I'm not going to go to the whole story. I wasn't able to meet one of the meetings, and I saw it in the minutes that he sent this letter. And then Maggie, I see this, so then I kind of was like, what, Maggie, what is this about? So thank you for forwarding, apparently you FOIA'd it? I don't know.
Yeah, I did it for you.
The letter from John, I don't know. So I have it, so thank you. And it kind of struck me because it said, the letter from the mayor said, I'd like to apologize for the actions and behavior of the city council and myself as mayor in regards to how we have been conducting our meetings. That kind of, I wanted to address this to John because it kind of really struck me because I'm not sorry for my behavior, and I'm not going to back down asking questions, anything. What I think needs to be apologized for is people on council have opposing viewpoints, and those are gavelled, or protecting other members on council when 7 misdemeanors are brought before us. That's what I'm embarrassed about, not my actions. So my message is that I'm not going to stop asking the tough questions. I'm not going to back down. I mean, if there's violations of the Open Meetings Act, as how we're doing things, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to question, and I guess I would say that I'm not embarrassed at all. I mean, maybe there's members on council that are embarrassed, and John's embarrassed, but I wish they would hold those feelings, not me. So with that, I also want to say congratulations to the lady who came forward and spoke up about running for city council. I know that's tough. I can't imagine coming before and putting yourself out there. I mean, I can't imagine. It's tough. Again, I'm interrupted, but.
What's your problem?
Glenn, do you have an issue with me right now speaking about?
Just kind of clowny, yeah.
Okay, well,
Go ahead.
It's the same.
Continue
Okay.
with your comment, please.
All right, well, apparently it's clowny, but I'll tell you, it's not a joke to me, because I sit up here and I take this job very seriously, just like I know you will when you come up here and you're elected, because we don't need people laughing at each other, calling each other clowns. And from what I gathered in your intelligent speech, it doesn't seem like you would have that kind of mindset sitting at this council. So maybe it's time that we get some readjustments and we get rid of all the animosity. So, I give you credit for coming up, speaking your heart, and caring for the city. I mean, if you say that you are a business owner and you have the business background, maybe that's what we need. Maybe we need some people who actually know how to work. So thank you. Thank you for coming forward. Appreciate it. With that, I want to wish everybody a good night. I'm not going to take the bait tonight, even though it's been thrown out a couple times, but just never was a fisherman. Thank you. Good night.
Maggie.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to respond to a couple of things this evening to Councilwoman Mary. I would suggest that you read the resolution setting procedures for council deliberations. That was passed on January 23rd of 2006, and that permits during council comment a council member to, quote, make comments. In a prior meeting, as you stated, I was adjourned during my council comments. And my council comments pertain to a public interest, and that was the fraudulent water billing practices of the city's billing department. And that kind of, was done by the mayor pro tem. And clearly, it was deliberate. It was an attempt to make sure that I did not come out and speak about certain issues. Now, there's a rule. There's a council rule. So, Councilwoman Mary better start reading the rules, because the rules clearly give me an opportunity at this time to say exactly what council's rule says, to make comments. So to adjourn me during my council comments is a violation of the rule. And I didn't hear anybody, including the city attorney, stand up and say, excuse me, but that's a violation of the rules. But yet tonight, we saw the city attorney working with the chief of police to work on rules to enforce city council rules. So I just want to make sure I get that out there, is that I serve the public because I have comments that are different from other people on this council. They're different. It's a different opinion, it's a different approach to analyzing issues, and it's a different level of accountability that this city has not seen before. So I would appreciate it if Councilwoman Mary, rather than condemning me, is read the rules and understand the person that she needs to attack is the Mayor Pro Tem. Next, my comment is addressed to John Galis. And I found a very grievous error of Robert's Rules of Order when he did his recess. And he did his recess, quite frankly, because his temper was out of control. But I didn't see city attorney or the chief working on a rule for that. But anyway, let's take a couple minutes and improve how we conduct business up here. Number one, on a motion to adjourn, there's actually a rule. To recess. It's rule number 20. And a motion to recess is made when no question is pending, and it's a main motion. So what Robert's rule says is that unless it's in your agenda, and your agenda gives you the recess, a recess is made by motion, not by the mayor's gavel. So to John Galis, I say, this council and these open meetings, which are regulated by statute, are not your private sandbox, where you can just sit here and recess a meeting without a motion. Motions are required to recess a meeting. And when you recess a meeting without a motion, that tells me you have no respect for the members of this council who have been elected by the voters. Whether you agree with any member of this council or you agree with no one is absolutely irrelevant. It's not relevant whether I agree with anybody on this council or whether they agree with me. What is important, and the only thing that is important, is that the public is able to hear all points of view, the public is able to hear all discussions, all criticisms, all questions, whether tame or terse, whether polite or impolite, whether flattering or inflammatory. And most egregious to that whole night, when the recess occurred, you had a city attorney sitting here and never said, "Excuse me, but maybe you ought to have a motion." Because when you recess without that motion, you are stopping that democratic process. Maybe the public needed to see the meltdown and say, "This is who I elected as a mayor." Get your motion. Get your motion and get it seconded. Next. I would like to thank Ryan Lair. Ryan, deliberately, Councilwoman Mary did not thank you at the last meeting for your public comments. She thanked John Hogan because John Hogan fit her agenda. Tonight, you fit my agenda. I would like to thank you, Ryan Lair, for your contributions to the last city council meeting, particularly your call for a collective consciousness and your reminder that public trust is paramount as an elected official. Ryan's request that Kivel resign was clearly made and directed to those council members who protected Glenn and kept him possibly from having his case moving on to the prosecutor's office. As a reminder, I was watching the confirmation hearings for Judge Gorsuch, and I believe that Lindsey Graham asked Judge Gorsuch if he could objectively rule and decide cases regarding President Trump. Judge Gorsuch replied, no one is above the law, not even President Trump. Come to South Lyon. When you come to South Lyon, there's a different law. It really doesn't matter what a professional attorney says. A $350 attorney, 7 violations, 7 misdemeanors, because right and wrong in South Lyon has a different standard. The standard in South Lyon is how many friends do you have on city council. If you're not liked by city council, I happen to be one of those, one set of rules are going to apply. But if you're liked by a majority of city council, another set of rules are going to apply. Ryan, you did not get complimented for your position that you stated on the record at the last meeting. And the reason probably is because you touched on the very essence of public corruption, on the granting of indulgences to your friends when they are public servants. Despite Judge Gorsuch's comment that no one is above the law, come to South Lyon, because there's a different story with a different standard. Next, I would really like to thank all the individuals who assisted me on my FOIAs. Lisa Deaton, you were absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. I served a FOIA on her to receive a letter that John Galis wrote to the city employees. The city employees that came to me did not want to be brought into the fray, and I asked them not to give me the letter, that I would FOIA it, and that's what I did. And Councilwoman Mary is correct. There are two sides to every story, and sometimes you have to go to Facebook to get the story that isn't allowed to come out when you're on city council. Next, I would also like to thank the FOIA requests that I did with the South Lyon Police Department. I'd like to thank Chris, the very, very professional team over there. I want to thank you. I also want to thank the South Lyon Area School District. I served a FOIA on them. They were very, very responsive. Additionally, I'd like to thank two city employees, Lori Mosier, who helped me with my facts tonight in terms of the sidewalk preparation. It was very helpful. And to, I think, kind of an unsung hero in City Hall that sometimes doesn't get a whole lot of thanks, Judy Piper. Judy Piper did the research for me as to whether or not the motion to recess, the recess that John Galis engaged in, whether or not that was a documented motion, and she provided me the information to move forward with my facts tonight. So thank you, everyone. It's been a great week. Let's look forward to assisting everybody with the Easter egg hunt in Volunteer Park. Thank you for letting me into your homes, and I'll see you at the next meeting.
Maggie, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
During council rules, we do have an opportunity to, if you
Yes.
allow me.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate council comments, but per council rules allows us to make general announcements and comment and ask questions back and forth to our council members. So, Maggie, I have to admit, I was a little rattled by being interrupted. I'm in a position where I didn't want to call people out, and I was very upset that during that moment I forgot to thank Ryan, and I wanted to take that opportunity to do so. So thank you. And one of the things that Ryan did, and many people don't know this except for the police, is that he volunteered his time to during St. Patrick's Day to walk people across the street, very busy Pontiac Trail, when the police were very short-staffed. Witch's Hat was paying overtime, and he took it upon himself to go out there without asking for any reimbursement and to help the residents of South Lyon, because that's how much he cares about, excuse me, about this community. And truly, you are citizen number one, Ryan, for our city. So thank you. Keep up the work. There's not very many people that will come to every city council meeting, will videotape every council meeting for backup, and he should be commended. So I apologize that I forgot to thank you. Keep up the good work. Thank you. And Maggie, I appreciate you allowing me to interrupt.
Thank you.
Are you done, Maggie?
Yes, I am.
Are you done, Joe?
Yes.
My council comment is that you've all heard a lot of different positions, a lot of different views on what happens and what the slant each person puts on what has happened and what is happening. Please make up your own mind. Watch the tapes. Listen to what people have to say, and make up your mind based on your experience and your understanding of right and wrong. With that, I'll call for an adjournment. Is there a motion?
I move to adjourn meeting.
Maggie, motion.
I'll second.
Mary? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.